Hey, look, it's the Party Wallop. Okay, I'm only doing it the one time. But yes, today we are looking at the collaborative, different, this L and M are close, collaborative Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Transformers, crossover, whatever, Party Wallop, except it's not exactly the Party Wallop. This is different. First off, I'm not going to be going through everything. We're not going to look at all the weapons accessories. We're not going to look at all the turtle options because everyone has watched. Like, I have a really hard time believing anyone watching this video is going to have this be their first look at this figure. If it is, I apologize, but I am not going over everything because I got this for one very specific reason. So we're not going to look at all the different turtle options. We're not going to look at all the different weapon accessories. I'm sorry. So the reason we're not doing that is because I didn't actually want, not that I didn't want, but like I was kind of like, no, I'm going to skip the Party Wallop when it was first announced and even when all the videos started going out, even though it did look pretty cool. Primarily because I try to limit the collection now to just having like multiple representations of specific characters, and I don't do Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles stuff. So this doesn't really have a place to fit. Then Toy Hacks and Nonnef collaborated to do a thing. I'm going to try to remember to put links to both sites down in the description for anyone who wants to look into doing this to their Party Wallop as well. But basically, Nonnef produced some add-ons / upgrades / different alternate parts kit that allow you, in conjunction with Toy Hack stickers, which I don't currently have, to turn the Party Wallop's robot mode into Metalhead. So I don't have the stickers. I'm still waiting on, like, I still have to order the stickers, but I wanted to get the Party Wallop and the Nonnef upgrades first because those are kind of more time sensitive than the stickers, because the stickers are always going to be there. Even if they sell out, they're going to get more back. But yeah, I got it specifically because I could turn this into Metalhead, because I didn't have a lot of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle toys when I was growing up. I did have some, but like Metalhead was, as a child, the original Metalhead figure was one of a handful of figures, including my G1 Bumblebee and like Bone Crusher from the Constructicons and stuff like that, that I would usually, it was one of my, I'm going to take this figure with me when we go out and like do stuff when I was a kid. So I have a lot of fondness for Metalhead specifically. So being able to turn the Party Wallop into Metalhead, it was like, I can't pass that up. So yeah, I guess spoilers for what this is going to become. But here we have the basic Party Wallop van mode, which is just the turtle van, and it looks good. I definitely want to get reefer labels on this thing at some point, but it does look good. I feel like there's enough here. The side here, it's just a lot of yellow, but it's not bad. It's just noticeable because you get a little bit of black here for these little vents on the sides. And of course, they painted the windows blue all the way around, which looks great. Rims are silver. There's some nice color separation between the yellow plastic and the green plastic for the roof and like the rest of the body of the van. The roof is done like a turtle shell. You've got the dark green inside the in the crevices with like the light green, which is great, though it would have been nice if that dark green was carried around the edges of the light green. And the green paint on the spoiler section, which is a separate piece that you can just unplug. It actually comes separate in the box. So if you wanted to have it like this, you could. And that's not terrible. It might be worth considering doing on my behalf because this is supposed to be Metalhead and not any of the other turtles. But yeah, it's painted and detailed quite well. And also, rear windows are painted. You got taillights, green bumper. Around front, you've got all this going on. There's a lot of stuff in the front. I like the green that they did the bumper in like green and painted the teeth whites. And you also have the white for the headlights, but they did the edges in silver. And same thing for the red lights up top there. And the silver for the side mirrors. So yeah, there's a lot of paint on this thing. I just kind of wish that this wasn't quite as stark yellow as it is. But like, I can't complain too much because if you're looking at it like this, it looks a little bit plain. But if you look at it like this, suddenly you've got way more color and paint going on. So it really only looks plain-ish if you're looking at it like this. And even then you get some stuff here. Yeah, I appreciate just how much detailing they did on this thing. And it's nice and solid. It can store all of the different weapons, but I don't have all the weapons out. There are only 2 weapons that I have on this guy for very specific reasons, as I said, because of the metalhead thing, but we'll also get into more specifics later. And this is a fun little, maybe not little, but a fun, decently sized turtle van. Rolls extremely well, which I really dig. The wheels or tires, they're not rubber, but the plastic feels like it doesn't feel flexy, but there's something about the texture that makes it feel slightly rubbery. Also, why is there a gnat? So these do actually have some grip on them, even though they don't seem to be rubberized. I'm not sure if it's something that they painted on the tires or if it's the plastic that they used or what, but it's nice, whatever it is. So yeah, there is the turtle van, party wagon, party wallop, whatever. In vehicle mode, bring in our size comparisons. There is Dinobot and Oviprime and Samus. As I said, pretty decent sized turtle van. And then we get these out of here. We'll bring in Burnouts. And it's I feel like the vehicle kind of like just in terms of bulk gives the impression of being like liter size. So yeah. And of course, most importantly, here he is with the duck tank. Okay, also real quick, I want to say you've got these little cannons up top that are movable. You can move them up and down. They are blast effect compatible, so you can do that. And also, if you want, there are these peg holes on the back windows. You can plug blast effects in there so it can, from the side at least, look like the van is shooting down the road. But yeah, there is that. Now, before we transform this guy, if you like this video or any other video that I've done on the channel, you want to support me, I do have a Ko-fi or Patreon, links to both at the end of this video as well as down in the description. Otherwise, the typical YouTube thing of like, comment, share, subscribe also completely works. Now, to transform this guy, the black of the weapons that I have like doesn't really make a difference or anything because all the stuff stores on the vehicle mode and kind of stays, with the exception of the katanas and the size, everything else stays exactly where it would normally be between modes. The size peg in down here and the katanas peg in up here, and you get these little sword tips poking out from the front, and I don't really like that, so yeah. Anyway, to transform this guy, I'm going to start by, well, I might as well do the feet first. So we're going to flip out the little heels here and then flip in the wheels. I'm going to pull up this whole section here. This whole thing untabs. It tabs in here and over this little hook tab here. And this can just come straight up. And on this side as well. And here is where things are a little bit different on mine. This section folds out on both sides, but there's this tab that's a little bit weird to use. Like, basically, I didn't touch this side. So on this side, there's this little tab here. And what happens is when this comes around, that tab clicks over this and holds this in place. Not really necessary because of how this pegs in, but the problem I was having was this side refused to work. It was actually warping the plastic. So what I ended up doing on this side was I shaved down that peg. So that peg, like, it's not completely flat because I couldn't get the X-Acto knife in there all the way and I didn't want to risk carving up the actual hinge, but it's flat enough that this just closes in. It doesn't have to sit flush anymore because it's just, it sits as it should anyway, and that tab doesn't get in the way. So yeah, this is a little annoying to deal with, but all I did was shave the plastic away on the side that was giving me trouble, and everything's been fine since. So with that done, the front wheel well untabs. It tabs in over this hook tab here, and then this just sandwiches together. Again, untab, sandwich it together. Now we can we'll pull these little flaps up just to kind of get them out of the way. And we can disconnect the roof from all this. It kind of tabs in. There we go. It tabs in here and here and here. So with that untabbed, now you can unhook the rear window section from the rest of it. And basically you kind of want to tilt this a little bit because it is a hook tab down here. So you can tilt this and pop it down. And these tabs are what's nestled in here, but they're slight hook tabs. That's why I'm not pulling straight down. So with all that done, now this whole assembly moves down and it doesn't snap into place, but it does friction into place pretty solidly. And I shift these up to become hip skirts. I'm going to split the legs. They just peg in together right down here. And this rotates forward, and you kind of need to pull this piece very slightly so you can get this green piece inside. Oh, that's in the way. So that goes in, and it actually tabs into a little cavity in there. There's this, there you can see the little circle and line shape on the inside of the panel, and it lines up with this piece here. So just bring that forward and kind of flex this out just a tiny bit, and it'll snap in. And that is the legs all done. And now for the rest of this, we're going to, well, first off, readjust the camera a bit. So I fold the guns back just to get them out of the way because we want to untab this front section of the roof. It tabs into here and here on both sides. So this just comes up and can sit back like that. Now, these arms can rotate down. You don't have to, but I do it just to kind of get them out of the way of this. And this also splits on taps in the back. And then this comes around, but there's actually you kind of have to pull up on the roof a little bit so you can get this out, because these little divots, one of these little divots actually sits, or rather this little peg thing here sits inside the back divot. You can kind of see here where it's still in place. It's not like solidly pegged in, but it's what keeps this from wiggling around. So you do want to kind of lift up as you pull and rotate this out. There we go. Now the window sections just fold up to finish the forearms. And these little panels can just sit down like that. And we can do the last bits of it. So for the shell, I have Donatello's collapsible staff inside here. It's just it's weirdly difficult to get out. But yeah, out of the way. There we go. But basically, this very long tab here tabs into this very long slot on one side of the bow, and it does open up. But I don't really like this weapon. It just seems a little bit too small, and it doesn't really work for Metalhead anyway. But I keep it in here because what this does when it's in here is you have to take these panels and fold them in, and these will also unclick and fold in all the way. But you fold these in, and I like having the bow in place because it gives these panels something to brace themselves against. Because with the bow not there, they do tab in down here. There's like this little spot here that this tabs into, but that's the only place where it's like solidified. So the center of this is not solid when the bow's not there. And I want that to be solid because these tabs here are supposed to tab in up here as part of the shell. So yeah, that's why I keep the bow even though I don't use it, because it's completely inconsequential when it's stored in either mode. So it just acts as support for the struts. Anyway, with that done, I'm going to push from this side to start pushing the head up. And once the panel kind of clears this section here, then I start pushing on the panel because I don't want to keep pushing on the head. So there is that. And now this collapses in, this collapses down, and you want to, what I find is the easiest thing to do is this gray tab does go into this little gap right underneath the panel here, but the most important thing is you want these two slots, these smaller slots here, to tab over these bits here. And I find the easiest way to do all this is to get those smaller tabs lined up on the sides first and then squeeze that in. And that will get that center tab in place. And once that's squeezed in, you can kind of push in on the back of the shell and it'll tab into that armature. And just kind of give it a good squeeze and bring the cannons up, rotate these up, and that's it. Now the shell is nice and solid in place. The arms are all done, and here we have the kind of initial transformation for Party Wallop, or in this case, Metalhead. But of course, you still have the front of the turtle van, so I'm just going to untab this, and this tabs in a few places. Come on, let go. I may have pushed it in unnecessarily solidly. Okay, so this, you got these 4 U-shaped tabs on the inside that tab into these 4 bits here. So that is how you take care of this piece, and then this little bit here folds out and becomes a peg that you can attach. You can use to like attach as a shield. One thing to note, when you fold this in, you don't have to fold it in all the way. If you fold it in all the way, it's incredibly difficult to get out again. So I just fold it in most of the way, and this will sit just fine. There's enough space between the chest and the back here that it doesn't push this peg forward anymore, and it just makes it a little easier to get out in the future. But with that done, what I like to do is I just take the arm here and use the peg hole, peg this in, and this becomes a shield. And it's fine. It's not like the most awesome thing, but I don't mind it, and I really prefer the way the chest looks without the big thing on it. Unfortunately, you don't really have a good place to store this outside of just pegging it to an arm. I really wish that they did something that allowed it to like peg up here, even if it meant just having like a couple of little peg holes on the top of the van. Like, I think that would have been okay if it gave you an alternative place to store the shield. But oh well, they didn't do that. Just a little bit on there that I couldn't get to. So yeah, this is the Party Wallop, but with the Metalhead upgrades, and I love this, and I cannot wait to get the stickers, because it's a very small, simple thing. It's a new head and new fists, and that's it. Outside of the stickers, the Nonnef stuff is just new head, new fists. The head is a few pieces with the ball socket joint, 2 halves of the head, and then a light piping block that you can put in there. I did consider they have like solid options for the eyes, like solid red and solid blue. I decided to stick with just the light piped red because the original Metalhead toy had light piped red eyes. So just keeping it as, original toy as possible. And you get the fists, and the reason the fists are new is because unlike the original Party Wallop fists that have 5 fingers, which is just like, come on, this is supposed to be a Ninja Turtles homage. Why does the Party Wallop have 5 fingers? These have 3 fingers, and they're still robotic, and they're gray plastic that doesn't perfectly match the other gray, but it's close enough. Those are the Nonnef upgrades, and it's very simple, but I really love how this changes the figure, because this is a cool figure. It's got some really cool, I love the color breakup here, because the Party Wallop was pretty much yellow and then green on top, and that's it. Here you get green and yellow and gray all kind of mixed together, including 2 different shades of yellow. I really like that, because there's this yellow that is actually relatively close to matching the yellow plastic, but then you get this much darker orangey yellow for the chest and the pelvis section, which looks really good and, evokes the whole Ninja Turtle torso thing. And around back, you have the entire roof of the Party Wallop or Party Wagon as a shell, but it's a Ninja Turtle. They are turtles, they have shells, so that's actually really kind of clever. I don't entirely disagree with people who wish that this panel could fold around and just kind of store on the back. but I'm also not really that bothered by it. Because yes, you've got this big panel there, but I don't mind it. And they even painted some of these details up here in silver. So I think like it's fine. And it doesn't actually get in the way of the head very much. Like you can rotate the head. I mean, granted, this is the metal head, but like you can rotate it around pretty much 90 degrees in either direction without this back panel being a problem. So yeah, color's good. The proportions are good. It's kind of like it's a little bit Ninja Turtles with like the torso being bulkier than is proportionally normal, so to speak. But it's also a little bit more stretched out, not as stout and round in the center. So it's a little bit more robot-y proportions, I guess. There's lots of nice greebling everywhere. And it's very cool. And also the fist thing also annoys me because they gave them the 2 toes. So why were they going to, like, how could they do 2-toed feet but not do 3-fingered hands? I don't get that. But anyway, let me get this off of here and we'll do more with that later. But yeah, this looks really cool. I said this before, but I cannot wait to get stickers on this because this already looks really cool with just the head. Like just the head makes this metal head to me. Because the colors are already kind of there. I mean, yes, the arms should be more gray than green, but like this still really evokes Metalhead with just a gray head that's a different shape. I love that. I also don't even mind the kibble, because again, this makes sense as a turtle shell, but like the shoulder pads don't really get in the way, and because of the way they're attached, if you wanted to, you could actually do stuff like rotate them forward to completely change the profile of the figure or the silhouette of the figure, which I think is kind of fun. Because of this panel, you can't really rotate them back, but like you can sweep them back a little bit, which I think looks good. The belt section, I think it would have been nice if the belt was painted, like the actual belt, like if it was either brown or black, but it's fine. They did do the bits in silver here, and the buckle itself is gray. And it does do the thing where you can lift it up, and it's got the different turtle letters. The M for Michelangelo is definitely off center. But then, red R for Raphael, blue L for Leonardo, purple D for Donatello, and then just the blank one. And the blank one is where I'm going to be putting the metal head sticker because I want to keep the other turtle stuff intact, just because, I may at some point decide I'm okay with this being the other turtles, in which case all I have to do is replace the head. And the head swap is really simple. It's just a ball joint. So you just pop the head off, which I think is actually going to be easier if this isn't in the way. So you just pull up to pop the head off, and it's just a little ball socket right there. So yeah, you just pop the different heads on and off. I still fully intend right now to keep this metal head, but if I ever change my mind and want to go back to the other turtles, then and see that it's nice and solid. But yeah, if I ever want to go back to the other turtles, not stickering the the other turtle belt buckles, I think gives me that option. So anyway, the head. This is the big difference with the Nonnef upgrades, and this is very classic Metalhead. I like how, like, the color's great. He's got the weird tiered cylindrical cheeks, the square or rectangular eyes, the almost unnecessarily squared off beak, and the little grooved robot teeth down there. It looks really good. Really, the only thing that's missing is there's not like a brain texture back here. I'm pretty sure Metalhead had like a brain texture for his light piping. But yeah, this is cool. This looks really good, and I'm really, again, excited to get the stickers to get the proper striping, detailing, and stuff on the head here. I'll probably pop the head off to reapply to apply those stickers when I get it. But yeah, it's a good looking head. Sculpt is nice. Feels good. And like Nonnef, they do not 3D print their stuff. This is like they make the molds in metal and then use, Like they actually pour plastic into the molds. So this is good stuff. Now for the articulation, the head is on a ball joint, but this head actually has a little bit more range than the Party Wallop head. So you get some pretty decent side-to-side tilt, can look up pretty darn far, and can also look down a bit. And it can rotate, as I said, it can rotate pretty decently until the panel gets in the way. But I don't think you're really going to need to rotate the head further than this anyway. So that's fine. As I mentioned, these are on swivels, so you can kind of get them out of the way as needed. The arms come out to 90, and because of the way that the shoulder pad's attached, it's actually separate from the shoulder, which I actually really like, because it's still, like, it's on this strut that's part of the shoulder assembly, so it does move when you rotate the shoulder, but when you bring the arm out, it just stays where it is, and I don't know, I like that. And the arm, as you saw, can go all the way around. You just kind of have to be mindful of this and some of the kibble back here and this and all that. You get a bicep rotation that's weirdly detented. Like, it's fine. It just kind of almost clicks into place at 90 degrees, which I think is just for the transformation, but it's fine. Like, you can, like, you don't have to do much to get it out of that click, and then you can just rotate it relatively freely. The elbow is slightly under 90 degrees and can go backwards if you want it to. The wrists, you can fold this panel in to bring the wrists in if you want, and they do rotate. The original fists did this too, and swapping the fists out is just a matter of you pop out the original fists via the mushroom peg that they're attached to, which is what allows them to rotate in the first place, and then you pop in the new fists. The waist also rotates. And again, stuff does kind of clash a little bit, but it does rotate, and you can kind of bring these down so that they don't... No, they still get in the way. Okay, so you're not going to get any more rotation by messing with the hip skirts, but you do get some good hip rotation, and then you could always like disconnect the that part of the shell so you can get more. And it'll stay tabbed in up here. Like I said, when you squeeze it in like that, it does stay pretty darn solidly. So, like, I have not had any problems with this unseating itself as I'm messing around with the figure. If you want, you can use that transformation joint as like a backwards ab crunch, or back crunch, I guess, but I don't prefer to do that. I still wish this like snapped in place, but because it has a tendency to go back slightly, but it's not too bad. It's not like loose, it just doesn't lock in. The hip skirts can shift up and down as you want, and can also go up and down here. They're attached, much like the shoulder panels, they're actually attached to the hips, so when you rotate the hip, it rotates the hip skirt with it, which I don't inherently mind, but that's a thing. And since it goes up that high, you can only bring the leg out, well, only. It's almost 90, so I think that's fine. And for forward and backward motion, the hip can go forward to just about 90 and can go back to about that far until it hits the shell. If we disconnect the shell, okay, yeah, if you get the shell out of the way, it could probably go back to 90. Of course, that requires unplugging the shell and having it just kind of hang back there. As you saw, it goes out almost to 90. You get a thigh rotation. The knees bend a little bit, just a little bit past 90. And then for the feet, the ankles do tilt, and that's kind of all you get. But if you want, you can disconnect the transformation hinge and use this as like a makeshift, have the foot kind of forward, like tilting forward kind of thing, which it's not terrible, but it's also not, it's not its intended function. So pretty decent articulation on this guy, all things considered. And again, I think he looks fantastic as Metalhead. Now, as I mentioned, I don't have all the weapons out because I only wanted to have one set of weapons to use for Metalhead, and it was difficult to choose because I thought the katanas looked best, but I didn't like how the katanas stored in vehicle mode. because they just sit out of the front like tusks. You can tab them into the sides here so that they store back here in robot mode, which is fine. And then for the size, they tab on the hip skirts here, but I think these are bulky enough. I don't really like having this size on the hip skirts. And like it looks okay to keep them on the thighs as like extra detail, but they're just pegged in so they can kind of get knocked out of the way. So instead, oddly enough, I opted to keep the nunchucks on them because I like the way the nunchucks store. You don't have to touch them at all during transformation, much like the bow. And they actually kind of work for Metalhead, and there's a reason I think this. So the nunchucks are stored underneath the shoulder pads here. And you've got 2 pairs, one under each shoulder pad. Or not pairs, but you got 2 sets, whatever these are called. I don't know what the plural of nunchucks, like I don't know how it works out. But basically you've got 1 and 2. And the way these store is you just have these little grooves on the grips and these little like bits on the underside here. So you just line up the grooves with those channels and they just tab in, and that's what holds it all together. So the whole reason, let me zoom back out again. So the whole reason I went with the nunchucks, and these are plastic, but they are actual like plastic chains, so they wobble around and can do stuff. The whole reason I went with the nunchucks is because I realized if you plug one into the fist, and this is something I want to mention too, the Nonnef fists are a little bit, the peg hole is a little bit smaller than the original figure peg holes, so like some of the weapons have a difficult time fitting into these fists. That doesn't bother me, but it is something to be aware of because the bow staff in particular, it does not slide all the way down. But basically, peg the nunchuck into the top of the fist and then peg the other one into the bottom. And it's not perfect, but having the 2 sets or pairs of nunchucks like this is pretty evocative of Metalhead's like weird helicopter accessory, like hand accessory thing. So this is what I have for his weapon. It'd be better if the fist and the nunchucks were in green, but still, like this, it gets the job done for my purposes. I think it actually looks the part. So yeah, Metalhead weapon, there we go. And I think that's pretty, again, for what it is, I think that's pretty decent. Maybe one day we'll get an actual like replaceable fist thing. I don't know, but for now, that works for me. And we'll just plug this back. Actually, before we plug this back in, I do have to acknowledge a little Ninja Turtles manhole cover on the front of the van face can be untabbed and removed to reveal turtle abs, which is funny because if you look at where this sits here, you don't have those turtle abs on the actual sculpt. I do this as I'm not zoomed in so you can see it. If you see where this lines up, you don't actually get turtle abs in that spot, so it's kind of funny. But yeah, that's kind of how that would look if you left that there. But on the other side of the manhole, you have a little pizza, which I think is just adorable. It is a shame that you can't really attach the pizza anywhere, but it's fine. It's a cute little accessory that, for the most part, is just going to stay right here, plugged into the front of the van, but I appreciate that it's there. I feel like, in this instance, you kind of have to have a pizza accessory of some kind, because Ninja Turtles, but yeah. And so this is kind of how I have Metalhead on the shelf, and I think this looks pretty cool. I also think it's going to look even cooler once I get those stickers, but I like this a lot. It's a figure that, as I said at the beginning of the video, I was not intending to get, and then I saw the upgrades and the stickers, and it's just like, I have to go for this, and I'm really glad I did now that I have it. It is actually legitimately fun to mess with. It looks cool, the sculpting's cool, the transformation is interesting and fun to do, the alt mode looks great. The robot mode, I think, looks great, especially as Metalhead, because he's already a robot turtle, so like you're pretty much there already. So yeah, this is very cool. I really dig this, and he's also pretty big. Like he's a teensy bit shorter than Buzzworthy Dinobot, who acts as our tall Voyager. Let's see if I can get a better angle so you can see that he is just a tiny bit shorter at the top of the head. That's fine in my mind because we're just looking at height. If we're looking at height, yes, he is roughly Voyager's size. But if we're looking at bulk, he is, in my mind at least, much closer to a leader. In terms of bulk, not height. I want to be clear about that, but bulk. Because this was something that I was interested in checking out myself when I first got this guy. If we bring in a relatively recent-ish leader with Galvatron here, he is definitely shorter than Galvatron. No question about that. I am not denying that in any way or trying to say anything to the contrary. He is shorter than Galvatron. But he looks to be about the same in terms of mass. I mean, Galvatron, like if I'm holding the two of them, Galvatron does feel a bit heavier. So like if I weighed them, I imagine Galvatron would be heavier. But like bulk and at least the illusion of mass makes this guy, the Party Wallop, by extension Metalhead, seem more akin to a leader to me than a Voyager. Again, just ignoring the height thing. Plus, when you consider the fact that this guy comes with, like 4 alternate faces, basically. Well, 5, because you've got the unmasked Party Wallop head, and then you can swap the top of the head out for the 4 turtles, plus the rotating belt thing, plus 4 different weapon options. This guy comes with a lot. He comes with a lot, and he's roughly leader-ish in bulk. So I feel like with that in mind, the $50 price point on this does make sense. I'm not saying I would have, happily paid $50 if I could have gotten him for 30 instead. I would have loved to get this guy for 30, but I do understand that price point. Anyway, here he is with the duck tank. And that does it for the Party Wallop with the Metalhead upgrades. I just need those stickers. And yeah, I'd say, like, I completely understand people wanting to wait for a sale. And I'd say if you like this figure, but you want to wait for a sale, that's completely fine. I do believe I would have been even more ecstatic to get this guy for like $35, $40. Heck, maybe even 25. I doubt this. I mean, this may go on sale for 25 at some point, but I kind of doubt it. But like, I'm not mad about paying what I paid for this guy. I think as a whole package, I get that price, and I think it's not unreasonable. Of course, I don't intend to use most of the accessories that come with this guy, but that's a me thing. But yeah, this is very cool, and it's it's very neat, and I'm extremely grateful to Nonnef and Toy Hacks for doing this, because this is such a very specific to me thing. And I know there are plenty of other people out there who would appreciate the opportunity to turn this guy into Metalhead, but like, this is a very personal reason for me. I'm probably not the only person with this reasoning either, but like, this is a very cool set. I love this and highly recommend getting the Party Wallop and then getting the Nonnef upgrades and the Toy Hack stickers. But even just on its own, the Party Wallop is worth getting at some point, regardless of whether you want to pay full price or wait for a sale. Like, if you get the opportunity to get it and it's at a price you want, I think it's worth it. But anyway, that's all I have to say about the Party Wallop and the Nonnef upgrades. I'm not going to make another video when I get the stickers, but he might reappear at some point in the future once I do. But like, yeah, this is this is very cool. It's a very Rob-specific thing, too, which doesn't happen super often, but I always appreciate it when it does. But what do you all think of the Party Wallop, or the Nonnef upgrades, or the Toy Hack stickers, or both, or none? Is it the kind of thing where now you're going to feel compelled to have 6 of these, so you can have one for each turtle, one for the Party Wallop itself, and one for Metalhead? Or have 5 because you could do the 4 turtles plus Metalhead? Me, I'm just happy with just this, but I know a lot of people have felt inclined to get multiples so that they can display each figure as a different turtle. But whatever your thoughts, feel free to chime in down below. I always enjoy hearing from you all. Thank you all for watching. And my goodness, this thing just still, in this light on camera, it still looks so good. I'm still geeking out about this thing. Oh, this makes me so happy. And those stickers are going to make me happy too. Anyway, I'll see you in whatever the next video ends up being.